What's up guys? In today's video, I'm going to show you how we went about building our roll pan for our 63 International project. I don't know what to say, Tater. I feel like a little kid. So before we started shaping any metal back here, we went and sat down with Jeff Allison and had him draw us up a rendering of just a general idea of kind of what we were looking for. And basically what we wanted to do was integrate the tail lights into the roll pan, make it all one piece, set our license plate back to tuck it away a little bit, and just take some nice shape and make it flow with the rest of the truck. So after giving a good look at the rendering, we decided the best place to start back here was going to be on the taillights. And what's actually really cool about these taillights is it's a factory fleet side taillight that we're adapting to look correct on the back of this truck. So I started over here and formed up some new housings for them. Now the cool thing about these taillight housings we made is it actually matches the same radius that's on our side steps that we made a previous video on of shaping those and getting those all dialed in. The camera's on.
It's on.
I'm not gonna have to say this 3 more times? Okay, all right. So since we decided to use the factory lens, we thought a good place to start would be taking the factory bucket and just seeing what we could do with it. So I used this as my base and then I slip rolled the outer new housing, and then I put a small tank roll on it just to give it a little bit of extra shape, and then welded to that factory bucket right here. Now instead of using a factory bulb in here, we're actually going to do something really trick, and we're going to use some new school LEDs in here. So once we get to that point, we'll show you that as well. So once I wrapped up the taillights and the new housings, I jumped up here and started working on a tailgate. So the idea behind it was that we wanted to iron out what the bottom of this tailgate was going to look like before I started shaping any of the roll pan, just to make sure there was no clearance issues and just everything flowed properly. So make sure you guys subscribe to the YouTube channel, so we will actually have another video out on the entire tailgate build as well. So after we got the tailgate to a good stopping point, I moved on down to the top half of the roll pan. So what I did here was I actually made it out of 3 sections. For me personally, I find it a lot easier to work with smaller pieces. I don't mind welding. I don't mind doing the planishing work to work those welds back out. So a lot of times it's just quicker and easier for me to do that than trying to shape one big massive piece and having it fight me the entire time. So I started by making each section, bending a top flange that mounts up underneath the bed structure, and then our lower piece that flows back at the angle that matches our fenders as well. Now for my center section, all I did was measure out a license plate, gave it a little bit of room on each side, top and bottom as well, and then I took this angle right here and I matched it to our angle that flows all the way around our tailgate. After I had all that in and together, I originally clecoed it in place, made sure everything fit properly, and then came back, scribed my lines, tacked it together. We know that's not going to change. We like the way that looks. So I went ahead and did that. Now, then I moved on to the lower half of the roll pan. I bent up my broken edge to tie into these top panels, and I slip rolled the bottom half, which is actually going to flow underneath our fuel cell, and then we'll put a couple beads in it down here. And then right in here in these sections, I left this clecoed because we're not quite sure how big we're going to go on the exhaust tip. So our general idea is that we're going to be somewhere around 6 inches wide, but it could change. So for right now, I'm just going to leave them clecoed in place until we get that all ironed out. So we ironed out the details on what we're going to do with our exhaust tips, and we've decided to actually make a custom tip, which is great because it allowed us to make it the exact size we want. We're not getting anything off the shelf or anything like that. And then I decided to go ahead and just get this finished out. So I pulled this lower section off, pulled all my clecos, sprayed the top half with Dicom, mounted that section back on, scribed all my lines, cut and hand filed it to fit, and then we put this lower section back in, made sure our fitment was good, and then went through and tacked it all, fit it back on the truck to make sure everything looked proper, pulled it off, welded it out, and then hammer and dollied and did some work on the planishing hammer and went ahead and metal finished this whole thing. Now, a couple things we did decide to do after I had this all metal finished out was we came back in here and we added a filler panel back in here that ties in from the taillight housings back into the bottom section here that's going to run under part of the fuel cell. We basically just did that to give it a little bit more depth and just add a little bit more rigidity to the roll pan itself. And then we've got it tied in here, mounted on the backs of these taillight housings, and then we've got some mounts up under here into the bed structure. Now, another thing we also did was at the bottom of these stake pockets, we had cut them a little high just because we weren't sure where everything was going to fit. So I came back in here and I added a lower section right in here that flows with this housing a lot better, and then capped the bottom just to finish everything out. All right, guys, so that just about wraps up this rear end for now. Paul's got a little bit of work designing the rest of the tips, and when we get that wrapped up, we'll show you that as well.